In the rolling plains of China's Shanxi province lies one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of the ancient world. Buried beneath massive earthen mounds and surrounded by thousands of life-size terracotta warriors is the tomb complex of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. But within this vast necropolis lies a forbidden inner palace, an underground chamber that has never been opened, a sealed world of untold riches and secrets that could upend our understanding of early imperial China. The story begins with Qin Shi Huang himself. Born as Yingzheng in 259 BCE, he ascended as king of the Qin state at age 13. By his late 20s, he had conquered rival states and, in 221 BCE, proclaimed himself Huangdi, the first emperor of a unified China. To secure his legacy, he embarked on an ambitious program of monumental construction: the Great Wall, new highways and canals, a standardized writing system, and of course his vast mausoleum. Unlike earlier royal tombs, Qin's mausoleum was conceived as a grand underground palace, a mirror of his earthly court. Ancient sources describe bronze rivers of mercury representing the great torrents of China, mechanical crossbows to guard the corridors, and ceilings studded with pearls to simulate the night sky. Yet, despite centuries of speculation, none of this has been verified by excavation, because no one has dared to breach the emperor's final resting place. Surrounding the burial mound is the famed Terracotta army, discovered in 1974 by local farmers. Over 8,000 clay soldiers, chariots, and horses stand in battle formation, each figure unique in facial features, attire, and posture. While these warriors have offered invaluable insights into Qin military organization and artisanship, they merely encircle the true heart of the complex, the Emperor's Tomb Mound, a pyramid nearly 80 meters high and 350 meters on each side. Chinese law and tradition have long protected the mausoleum from large-scale excavation. The central mound, a massive conical earthwork, is officially designated a protected archaeological zone. In the 1970s and again in the 1990s, small boreholes were drilled to analyze soil and gas composition. Researchers detected elevated mercury levels, lending credence to historical accounts of liquid metal rivers. Yet these tests only deepened the mystery: no camera probes, no robotic exploration, no direct view into the emperor's chamber. Why has China's archaeological authority refused to open the tomb? Officially, they cite the risk of irreparable damage. Ancient wood, silk, lacquer, and even stone carvings can deteriorate rapidly when exposed to air, light, and humidity. Early attempts at large-scale digs elsewhere in China resulted in fragments of lacquer peeling off, metal corroding, and pigments fading. The fear is that once opened, the inner tomb would be lost forever to decay. But beneath this conservation rationale lies a more profound question: what if the emperor's tomb contains evidence that contradicts our current historical narrative? The sheer scale of investment in materials, the texts engraved on palace walls, and artifacts possibly painted with pigments unknown in 3rd century BC China could demand a rewriting of early imperial history. Imagine discovering polychrome murals depicting royal processions that differ from surviving bronze reliefs, or scrolls inscribed in a dialect predating unification. Any such find could rewrite the story of Chinese state formation. Our primary ancient sources for the mausoleum come from Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian and other Han Dynasty texts written decades after Qin Shi Huang's death in 210 BCE. Sima Qian recounts lavish details: the inner palace supported by beams of precious jujube wood, guarded by life-size bronze figures, floors inlaid with jade and tiger's eye, and passages booby-trapped with crossbow shafts triggered by tripwires. However, these accounts blend historical reporting with court legend, and Han-era scholars may have embellished Qin extravagance to contrast the succeeding dynasty's moral authority. Modern geophysical surveys, ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry, have mapped anomalies beneath the mound. Circular voids, rectangular chambers, and thick walls suggest a labyrinthine structure. Yet none of these scans can reveal the contents. Even if a subterranean vault is detected, extracting artifacts without human intervention remains technologically daunting. China's State Administration of Cultural Heritage continues to invest in remote sensing, but admits that until conservation methods improve, the tomb will stay sealed. Beyond the mound and the terracotta encampments, the complex extends over 56 square kilometers, including palaces, pits of bronze chariots, sacrificial pits containing horses and musicians, and satellite tombs for concubines and courtiers. This vast funerary city underscores the emperor's belief that death should mirror life in every detail. Yet archaeologists worry that the true chronicle of Qin's court resides behind the sealed tomb doors. What bureaucratic records were buried, what mineral samples collected, what diplomatic envoys' correspondence tucked into wooden boxes, they all lie hidden. In recent years, international experts have urged a cautious but proactive approach. Advanced imaging techniques using cosmic rays, neutrino detectors, and low-impact endoscopic cameras could one day peer inside without large-scale digging. Some have proposed a small-scale micro-tunneling project to insert a narrow drill pipe, fitted with a micro-robot. But each proposal has been rejected amid concerns over cultural sovereignty and the permanent loss of context if something went awry. Meanwhile, stories of rumored treasures continue to circulate. Local guides speak of emerald chambers where walls are encrusted with jade tiles and gemstones, and of antechambers filled with golden chariots and jeweled cups. Some believe that before sealing the tomb, court artisans ground down rubies to produce a red pigment never again used in later dynasties. If true, such a find would force historians to reconsider the technological capabilities of the Qin workshop. Another tantalizing prospect is the possible discovery of royal decrees and philosophical treatises by the emperor himself. Qin Shi Huang is said to have commissioned works on governance, law, and alchemy. Some fragments of these texts survive only in later references by Confucian scholars who condemned the emperor's legalist policies. If the original manuscripts lay within the tomb, written in the emperor's own hand, they could transform our understanding of the ideological foundations of the First Empire. Critics of opening the tomb argue that the symbolic power of leaving it undisturbed outweighs any potential gain. They compare it to the Egyptian pyramids. Though filled with treasures, most remain unopened to protect their sanctity. The mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang has become a modern monument to the emperor's quest for immortality, itself an artifact of cultural heritage. To breach it now would be to erase the peace of the site and risk turning it into a spectacle. Yet science advances. In Japan and in Europe, laboratories have developed environments that replicate ancient atmospheres, using inert gases and vacuum chambers to preserve organic materials immediately upon extraction. If a joint Sino-foreign team could guarantee such conditions, the argument for excavation would strengthen. Similarly, 3D printing technology could reconstruct fragile ornaments in real time, preserving the originals elsewhere. Beyond politics and technology, the ethical dimension looms large. The tomb is not just a Chinese heritage site, it is part of human history. Does any nation have the right to withhold knowledge from the world? Advocates for opening the tomb argue that scholars everywhere deserve to examine artifacts that could reshape global narratives of empire, innovation, and cultural exchange. Consider the possibility that the inner chambers contain maps showing trade routes extending to the Mediterranean, predating known Silk Road connections. Or that botanical samples, sealed in resin, preserve DNA of now extinct plants. Perhaps there are astronomical records of supernovae or solar eclipses that would refine modern astronomical chronologies. Each of these finds could ripple across disciplines from botany to astronomy, rewriting centuries of scholarship. And yet, there is also a danger of disappointment. If the tomb opens to reveal only ordinary grave goods, bronze vessels, lacquered boxes, jade ornaments, it might dampen enthusiasm and goodwill. The risk of a Pyrrhic victory, opening the tomb only to find little of historical import, looms over every excavation plan. This fear has made authorities cautious, preferring to perfect methods before undertaking such a historic venture. International conventions, like the UNESCO 1970 Convention, emphasize cooperation in protecting cultural heritage. Chinese archaeologists have invited select foreign specialists to conferences but maintain that any excavation must be led by Chinese teams. This stance underscores the complex interplay of national pride, scientific collaboration, and ethical stewardship. Despite the stalemate, there is no shortage of academic and popular interest. Documentaries, virtual reconstructions, and conferences keep the debate alive. Universities offer courses on funerary archaeology and early Chinese history that treat the mausoleum as a case study in archaeological ethics. Enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists alike pore over satellite imagery, rumor, and rumor rebuttal, driving public fascination. What would happen if the tomb finally opens? In the immediate aftermath, scholars would scramble to catalogue each item. International teams would vie for access. Conservation labs would operate around the clock. Public exhibitions could draw millions. And within a decade, textbooks worldwide might bear new chapters on Qin engineering, imperial ideology, and ancient Chinese science. Yet perhaps the greatest impact would be intangible, a reminder that human knowledge is fragile. Qin Shi Huang built his empire to defy death. In the end, the empire fell, and his final resting place became a time capsule sealed by centuries of uncertainty. The story of the Forbidden Tomb teaches us that each generation inherits a legacy it must choose to preserve or lose. In the meantime, the emperor sleeps on, beneath layers of earth, behind walls no hand has breached in over 2 millennia. His terracotta sentinels stand guard, silent witnesses to a history yet unwritten. And scholars, conservators, and dreamers continue to ask, when will the world finally peer into that forbidden chamber? And when it does, what truths will emerge from the darkness?